First of all, I think it is swum.
Swum. Mm.
They've swum.
They have swam?
I don't know. Swam is the past tense of swim. Swum is used after have. I have swum. Swum is the past participle.
Yeah. So it's have swum.
So they've swum. Welcome to My Hill to Die On, episode 45.
Everyone has things they are passionate about.
Things we want our friends to try and experience.
So we've convinced each other to try different things.
And we talk about these experiences to see if we can get just one more person
to join us on our hill to die on. You got your second shot?
Yeah, I'm all fully vaccinated. How about you?
Yep, me too. So how was your reaction?
Oh, I was...
Because you're prone to sickness.
Prone to sickness? Whoa. Yeah, I wouldn't say that at all. I would say I get a lot of, like, where I feel a bit under the weather a lot. Not a lot.
You are occasionally under the weather.
Yeah.
But not, like, laid out in bed sick.
Yeah, no, I get to the point where usually my allergies really badly acting up.
Yeah. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
You can walk around the house, but you're not 100%.
Well, yeah, and honestly, I say that because do you know how many days I took off of work this past year because of sickness?
No, I don't know.
0.
Really?
I'm pretty sure. I might have taken 1. No, I took 1.
One whole day, maybe, yeah. Just a few hours here and there. That's what I think. That's what I thought. That's what my feeling is.
Oh, yeah. I took a few hours here and there. 1 sec.
We can't look it up anymore because the school year changed over.
No! But yeah, I took like 1 full day off and then a few hours here and there where I would like go home like an hour early because I was just feeling too under the weather. But
yeah, that's what I would think.
I don't get full sick that often.
No.
And usually it is just my allergies acting up and things like that because I have real bad allergies.
And I usually get sick, usually when the seasons change. I'll feel under the weather for a day, I think. But anyway, so how was your reaction, though?
Oh, my reaction, I was laid up. All that to say, yeah, I was laid up. I end up sitting on the couch for the entire day, just flipping through TV channels.
Yeah.
I was not in good shape.
No, I slept pretty much the whole day, too. It was kind of rough. I just couldn't do anything.
Yeah, for me, it was, I felt like I had chills. I felt like I had a headache, but I felt that way really from not the day I got the shot, but the day afterwards from about 11 a.m. until I went to sleep.
Yeah.
So it was really the afternoon and evening of the second day after I got the shot.
Yeah, and only for that long, right? The next morning that you were fine.
Next morning I was 100% great.
It was pretty similar for me. I think I started feeling it earlier in the morning. And I think by the time I woke up the next day, I was like 95%, but still like some linger stuff, but still. But I am pleased that I'm now fully vaccinated.
Yeah, same here.
It's been 1 week for me since I was fully vaccinated. So I've got another week until
it's 100% effective or like 95 or whatever number percent effective. Yeah, no, it has been now 3.5 weeks since I got my second shot. So I am fully, as much as this shot's going to get me, vaccinated. I'm feeling great. I am still wearing my mask everywhere.
Yeah, me too. Because politeness?
Because here's what I'm going to say. A, politeness. But also B, I know I have the shot. But at least where I am, I don't trust that everyone else has gotten the shot. In the States right now, most places say, well, masks are not required for those who are fully vaccinated, yada, yada, yada. Well, how many people are actually checking? I don't trust that the people who are not wearing masks are actually vaccinated. I believe that because it's based on the honor system, I don't believe that people are being honorable.
Yep.
What can I say? I have a high faith in humanity.
So, did you go other places? How else has your break been?
I did. Until I had the second shot, I didn't want to go anywhere because I was determined that, no, I don't want to risk it. So, that being said, as soon as I got my second shot, I feel like I have been going nonstop. I think my parents were trying to make up for some lost time with taking me to visit my grandpa and things like that and doing all that. So right after I got my second shot, we took a bit of a road trip down to see my grandpa and my aunts and my uncles who all live in the same city.
In the middle of Illinois or just south of Chicago?
No, in Missouri.
Missouri.
Which thankfully we did not do that trip close to the end of my time here in America, because then I would have had to quarantine for 3 days when I got back to Japan.
Oh, really? Because Missouri's not doing so well?
Oh, Missouri's doing awful.
Mm.
But my grandpa, he's fully vaccinated, and he was the one who I was really the most concerned about, because he is definitely in the vulnerable category. I think he's gotten the first shot already. When I visited him, it was 1 week after I had gotten my second shot. So he should have gotten the second shot by now, but I haven't asked him about it.
Missouri's actually not so far from Chicago as I thought. It's what is it, 4? Depends on where in Missouri you're going, I guess.
Depends on where in Missouri. We went to Kansas City. Yeah.
So that might be like 4 or 5 hours?
If I remember right, I think we were close to 6 to 7.
Oh, okay.
But I might be misremembering. Mostly because, hey, the nice thing about going everywhere with your parents is the fact that as a grown adult, I can sit in the back of the car and fall asleep because somebody else is driving.
That is nice.
You don't get that option very often after you've gotten older. We went down to Kansas City, Missouri, visited the family. And when I say the family, I mean the whole clan, like grandpa, all of the aunts and uncles, cousins. There were a few cousins who weren't able to make it because either they were working a lot or felt sick or things like that, but I saw most of them. Then after that, we went and took a trip around Lake Michigan.
Oh, yeah. You mentioned that. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's a fun little trip. You basically take a lakeside drive around Lake Michigan, and it's just a beautiful sight all the way around. Lots of lighthouses, lots of great lakeside views. Then we went to a couple of national forests, a couple of state parks. We went to Mackinac Island, things like that.
That's the bridge name, right? That's the bridge that crosses the...
Yes, there's the bridge that crosses from the Upper Peninsula to the Lower Peninsula. There's a island right near there called Mackinac Island. It's one of the main forts that was set up in the before America was America. And so it was often fought over, and it was a trading post, because it used to be that island was the central location, so that if you were sailing a boat from Chicago and trying to get through the Great Lakes all the way towards like New York area, you had to pass by the Narrow, which had Mackinac Island right there. So it was a great defensive point, and also a great point where you could have a trading location. So you have somebody who runs the trading route from Chicago to Mackinac, and then somebody who buys stuff from there and then takes it further east. It was a great trading location, but it was also a great fort, and it was constantly fought over. Like, America had it for a while, and then Britain took over it in the War of 1812, and then they got it back, and then, yeah. Mackinac actually, at one point, was the second national park ever created. And then, for some reason, the nation said, you know what, we're not going to keep this as a national park. And so they gave it back to Michigan, and it became the first state park, I think.
Okay.
Well, Michigan's first park, at least.
Michigan's...
One of the really interesting things, if you've never been there, is there are no cars on that island.
Really? So everybody gets around by bike or something?
Mostly bike and horse and buggy. Or like a horse and cart. Because they had a lot of horses and a lot of carts on the island when the first horseless carriage came along, and it freaked a bunch of horses out. And so they passed a law at that time saying, no, we want no horseless carriages on this island. So right now, I think there are 3 total automobiles on the island.
And they're all illegal?
No, the three are 2 fire trucks and an ambulance.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You don't want your fire truck to be drawn by horses. At least not now.
Nor your ambulance, yeah.
Well, maybe your ambulance.
Depends how quickly you need to get to the hospital.
But yeah, we did that. Did a couple of other things. One of my uncles came into town from Pennsylvania, and so we did a bunch of touristy things around Chicago. There was this really great deal that we got where we were able to take the architectural boat tour, which is really nice. If you've never done that, those sort of things are really great. Basically, you jump on a boat and you sail up the Chicago River and you just look at all the buildings and they tell you about the history of the buildings and those sort of things. A lot of it being, oh, this area after the Chicago fire, this is what was developed here. This one was built in the 60s when everybody was super focused on hunkering down and things like that. And I think I'm getting the dates wrong and whatnot, but it's very interesting. So we took the architectural boat tour. Then we did a bunch of different things. Like we went up the John Hancock building. Well, it's no longer called the John Hancock building, but what was the John Hancock building. We went up there to the sky deck and looked out from the observation deck, which was very interesting because once we got up there, we realized exactly how smoky the air is right now.
Oh, interesting. Smog?
I think...
Or fires?
I think it's due to the fires. I think the smoke from the fires has been carried so far east that it was obscuring the line of sight in Chicago. I think that's the case because that's what it seemed like to me. Yeah, so we did a bunch of things like that when my uncle came into town. I saw Black Widow in the theater.
Oh, yeah? Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So those have been pretty much the majority of my vacation-y things there. And as a small update from the last episode, I was able to get the PS5.
Okay, good. It didn't get delivered someplace weird?
Well, that's a story. Because what happened was, I told you that it had defaulted to an old address when I had purchased it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I called them up within 30 minutes of having ordered it and said, hey, can you send it to the correct address? And they couldn't change the address at that point because one of the items in the bundle was a gift card.
Oh, yeah.
And the digital gift card got issued immediately, and once any part of the order has been sent, you can't change the address.
Did you have to cancel the whole order?
Oh, it gets better than that. Because what I did was I said, okay, look, I just wanted it redirected. I mean, I can cancel the order if you want. Oh, no. They tell me, all you have to do is, once it gets shipped out, give us another call and have us recall the item back to the warehouse, and then we will redirect it to the corrected address, because all I wanted them to do was make the shipping address and the billing address the same thing, because the billing address was correct. It was just the shipping address wasn't.
That sounds like still a lot of problems. Because there's a lot of people involved in recalling. A lot of people that have to know what the right thing to do is involved in recalling and then changing the address and things like that.
I know. So I did that, and then they said, you have to wait until it actually gets shipped out before you can do this. So I wait. I get the alert that it gets shipped out. I call them back, and the second person I call says, oh, no. That's not how we can do this.
Yeah, exactly.
And then I did what that second person said. And then when nothing changed, I called a third time. And then the third person said, oh, no, the second person had no idea what they're talking about. Let's recall it back to the warehouse.
So the first person was right, huh? That was the proper way?
Kind of. Eventually, it gets back to the warehouse. And the instructions I was given was, once it gets back to the warehouse, call us again, and we will get it redirected. So it got back to the warehouse. I called them again, and they said, oh, no, we can't do that, but we'll give you your money back.
For everything?
For everything.
Including the gift certificate?
Yeah. So I said, yeah, fine, whatever. Just get me my money back. That's fine. A day later, I get a notification that there has been a shipping out from the warehouse to the correct address. Instead of refunding me my money, somehow they actually just shipped it.
They figured it out.
They figured it out. And I was like, oh, I thought you were just giving me my money back, but apparently you're shipping it to the right address. Now here's the fun part. Unfortunately, because of this rigmarole, it was to arrive while I was down in Kansas City.
Oh, mm-hmm.
So we did a bunch of other things. Eventually got it to be held by a FedEx store. And when we arrived back from Kansas City, I picked it up and went, oh, look, I now have a PlayStation.
Oh, good.
And then immediately went on a road trip to Michigan. So I've not had a whole ton of time to play it, but, you know, I definitely now have a selection of PS5 games to enjoy in my 2 weeks of quarantine when I get back.
So some games came with it.
A few games came with it, and then I bought a few games because, hey, I might as well grab a few games while I'm over here. So I have things like the Spider-Man game. I have a game called Demon Souls. A couple of other games that came with it. But yeah, I'm happy with the purchase, and I have a new PlayStation. And now the fun part will be figuring out how to get it back to Japan.
Oh, yeah. By the way, I'm sending you a Synology that you should bring back with you, too. Not just kidding.
Please don't, because I already have a friend who sent me a phone that I need to bring him back.
Oh.
I'm like, guys.
You're not a transport service, Ryan?
Well, the problem is, I'm already thinking that I'm going to have to leave. I received a bunch of board games as well over the past couple of years that have been sitting in my parents' basement, and I think I'm going to have to leave some of them here. Because, unfortunately, I got the box with all of the stuff in it. And so, if I brought all my board games, I think that is a entire suitcase right there.
Mm-hmm.
So, that is a suitcase of board games, a suitcase of clothes, a PS5, and what I brought originally. I'm out of space.
And they don't give you more space even though nobody's on the plane.
Well, let's see how many people are actually on the plane this time. I don't know.
It's true. You could have a more full plane.
I could have a more full plane, but I actually doubt it at this point because of how strict Japan is getting right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I might have the plane all to myself. Who knows? Actually, I think they would cancel it if it was just me.
Well, I went to the place we normally go in the summer.
Disney?
Well, that too. We'll get to that, though. We have a hotel that we often go to in Izu. And I don't know, you know, I struggle with, do you go back to the same place every year or do you try something new every year? And for a long time, we were doing the try new every year, which I like a lot too.
Mm-hmm.
But we've gone to this place now 5 years in a row. And it's not a bad place, but now it's a place we know what to expect. And in the Izu Peninsula, which is like the second peninsula south of Tokyo, first being Yokohama and then being Izu, it's not that far away. And there are some good things to do. We did some new things this time that we hadn't ever done. So I was pretty pleased with that. It wasn't just like, oh, we went here and then we go to the local zoo for the third time in a row. Because we have been to one zoo twice now. But we did some new things this time, and they turned out pretty well. I was pretty surprised. I was like, oh, these are fun things. Perhaps we could have done them sooner. Oh, well. They have a pool there. And since it was still kind of rainy in July when we went, early July, the pool was nice because we could swim even though it was rainy. And then we did go to the beach that's there. There's a beach that's a pebble beach, which is kind of nice. You know, I've tried to decide whether I like the pebble beach or the sand beach better. And I kind of like this pebble beach. So I think sand beach would be nice too. But this pebble beach is nice, and we've been there a few times now. So I enjoyed it again this time. And I'm glad we went. We were on the fence on whether we should go or not this year. Because one of my daughters didn't really want to. The other two daughters were like, yeah, I kind of like the pool, like the beach. Either one's fine. And we went on the last day we were there. And my wife kind of just suggested, let's just go to the beach on this last day. And I think it was wise. We didn't have to, but I'm glad we did. And it was the best day to go. It happened to be the sunniest day of all of the days. So basically we just relaxed there. We did take things nice and slow, so that was kind of nice as well. It was a nice vacation there. And then we came back for 2 days and then went off to Disney Sea and Disneyland. And that went very well too. I did end up finding out that it was 2 hours of less park opening time than the last time we went. So it was a bit more constrained. There was still only 5,000 people. But I think being July was probably the biggest impediment to having fun. It's hot at Disneyland in July. I forgot the saying, don't go in July, which is one of my sayings.
Yeah, I believe you said that not like 3 episodes ago.
Yeah, well, I mean, and don't go in July because of the fact that there's a lot of people there, and the 5,000 limit hindered the amount of people going. But yeah, it's just too hot. The asphalt there just sucks up the heat and then reflects it right back at you. I mean, Disney tries pretty hard to make you comfortable if it's still, and they do a decent job at it. But yeah, it's still hot, so don't go in July. We ended up having a bunch of fun. And my daughters, so last time Disneyland, they tried a whole bunch of rides they never did. And one of the main objectives this time was to go to Disney Sea and have them try a whole bunch of rides they haven't tried before. And they did that successfully. So that was very nice. My elder daughter did the Tower of Terror for the first time. And she had an amazing amount of fun doing that. She couldn't convince her younger sisters to do it, though. But we had a good time doing it together. So that was fun. I haven't been on that ride in got to be 10 years now. More than 10 years.
Yeah, I can understand that.
Well, and most of the time the line is huge, right? So again, this time we basically walked in with a 5-minute wait, got straight on the elevator and did the ride. Like, that's just great. We did do some longer waits this time. I think we waited for Splash Mountain for something like 30 minutes in Disneyland. There were some longer waits this time than the last time we went. I think one of the reasons is that the clientele is slightly different than what it was in middle of May. I think the difference was this time of year now, summertime, there'll be some people out of school. I mean, we went before Japanese school ended, but still, like, college will have ended and a bunch of other things will have ended. So the people going will probably try those faster rides, I think. Whereas in the crowd of people going, you know, like college age, teenager, things like that, they're going for the faster rides. And I think when we went in May, that wasn't really the case. I think it was more families who were taking vacations. So everybody was more spread out in what they were doing. There was less of a specific demographic there. I don't know if that's true or not, but that's just a feeling I had. One of the things that limited us was because there was so few hours, like the park closed at 7, which is pretty early.
Yeah, that's crazy early.
I mean, normally closes at 10, so we lose the whole 3 hours there. We were trying to do as many rides as possible in the park still. I mean, again, not to rush us, but, you know, let's enjoy ourselves and not sit down at a restaurant for 2 hours and eat, right? So one of the things that we found as a challenge this time was we did the rides all the way till 7 o'clock, and then we hopped in a car and went to a local restaurant, but had to get there before 7:30, before last order, because the state of emergency says the restaurant has to close at 8, and so they'll do last orders at 7:30, possibly late as 7:45. So after our last ride, we had to jet out of the park to get to a local restaurant before they would turn us away. And we just made it on the first day. We just made it. The next people that went in, they rejected. They said, no, last order already happened. Oof. That was kind of tight. But yeah, we made it like 7:30 or 7:28 or something like that. We were pretty tight. And then we stayed overnight at a hotel we hadn't stayed at, tried a new one. It was slightly cheaper, decent quality. I mean, it wasn't an excellent hotel, but something that I figured we should give it a try. It was very local and convenient, which was nice. We haven't stayed at a hotel that close to Disney before, but interestingly, it was cheaper than all the other hotels we normally stay at, so that was interesting. So the first day we went to Disney Sea. We drove straight to Disney Sea and then went to Disney Sea, which was actually very nice. And we didn't even have to wake up that early because the park didn't open until 10, which is very late opening also. But so we could leave at a leisurely time from our house and still get there by 10, and then stayed overnight because it's convenient. And we only stayed one night and packed up all our stuff, checked out, and then went to Disneyland and then returned home that evening. So it was 2 full days, but we had a lot of fun.
Yeah, it feels like both of us did a lot of, okay, we're going to take the first half of the summer where we're not going to do a whole lot, and then we're going to cram everything into this little spot.
Well, so then we were trying to think, are we going to do anything else this break? And it looks like we might go to Hakone for a few days next week.
Oh, that's nice.
But last week, we were like, do we go anywhere? Do we do anything? Well, and I took out the pool that we bought last year, right? Because last year we built our deck, and we built our deck strong enough to put a pool on top. And we took the pool out last week and started using it for the first time. And it got pretty hot here in Japan. It got to 34, which is, I don't know, 90-something.
Yeah.
And we didn't have to turn on the air conditioning at all last week because of the pool. So that was kind of nice. We basically said, well, our vacation this week is at home. And my daughter swam in the pool almost every day. I think they've skipped 2 days only since we've had the pool out. And this week, we went shopping. We might do some more shopping this week, getting ready for school.
Yeah.
And the next week, we're going to Hakone for a few days. So anyway, we will do a little bit more, but summer's winding down, that's for sure.
Well,
it's too bad, too.
Yeah, it is. It feels like, I could use a little bit more summer.
One new thing I did recently was Synology. We've talked about Synology a few times here.
A few times. I like my Synology. I decided I would update my Synology to DSM-7. And one of the marquee features of DSM-7 is the new Photos app they have. And I am a big user of Synology's Photo Station in DSM 6.2. And I've got all my photos organized there. And I have some scripts that organize them for me into folders based on date. And then I take them from there and then break them down even further to event. So, like, it'll organize it into 2021 July, and then I will take the 2021 July folder and say, great, these are the pictures we took when we went to Izu, and these are the pictures we took when we went to Disney. And I'll organize them like that. Yeah.
And I like that formatting. It's fun. I like it because I like the opportunity to review the photos when I do that. I don't have to, and I'm wondering, is it even excessive? Okay, so where I'm going is, I've been listening to ATP recently, which we had Casey Liss on, and they've been talking to him a lot about migrating to iCloud Photos. And I think they've talked Casey Liss into migrating to iCloud Photos. And I was listening to them. And in my head, one of the things I was thinking was, one of the reasons I like DSM Photos is because it can be a shared library for me and my wife.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, my wife really doesn't use it. So how shared is it then, right? If my wife isn't really using it. It's not really shared at that point. So the other thing is, because I have Apple One Premium, whatever it is, where I pay Apple the big amount of dollars and get everything.
Yeah.
Because I have that, I get 2 free terabytes of iCloud, and we're not using most of it. And so I have enough space there to upload our photo library, but I don't think I have enough space to upload our photo library into my wife's account and my account. And then I'd have to probably upload my photos into my wife's account every once in a while. I don't mind getting her photos from her phone to put into my account. That's fine. I could do that. I already do that now, basically. So anyway, it doesn't really solve that problem. Even though I don't share a library with my wife, because my wife doesn't really look at the shared library, I think it would be worse for me to upload all of our photos into my wife's library and into my library. I think that would be a mistake. So while I like the idea of iCloud Photo Library, I still think there are a few things that are bugging me. So anyway, DSM-7, the new photos thing, I was like, well, I think I'm leaning more towards sticking with DSM, my Synology. So I wanted to take a look because it's changing a lot the way photos worked. I read a bunch of reviews online and I was like, okay, how is it changing? I knew some things broke and I wanted to know what broke. And so I read a whole bunch of things and most of them agreed that the things that I wasn't using were the things that broke. So I was like, oh, okay. The only feature I think that's broken that they will very likely fix is the fact that if you type in the search bar, so for instance, if I organize my photos into 2021-07, whatever day we went, space Disneyland, so that's the way I call my folder. If I typed Disneyland in the photo search, it wouldn't find the folder name, even though that's written in the folder name. So that part of the search is broken. But that seems like something they just overlooked and something that would be very simple to fix. And I don't use that search that often anyway, so I think it's okay that it's broken right now. And if they don't fix it quickly, they'll fix it by the next time I use the search feature, which will be a few months from now, a year from now. Big deal. So they'll have it fixed. So anyway, so I migrated to DSM-7, and I was pretty pleased. It is not bad at all. The app for the phone is much better than the previous app. for very simple reasons. One of the things that I really disliked about the DSM Photos app before was that I had to sign in every time. Every time I opened the app, I had to sign in. That wasn't that bad. It saved all my credentials. I just clicked sign in and I was in. But realizing now that an app that stays signed in all the time is so much nicer. Oh, you want to use the same photos you just used? Oh, let me just bring them right up for you. Here they all are again. Like, that's just an amazing feature right there. That right there is just already 10 times better. Like, oh, you're looking at the same photos. Here they are. It seems to cache the photos on the phone, at least some thumbnails and at least the directory listings. So every time I go in, it's not having to reload that every time like before, which was slow. One other real nice thing is it actually reads HEIC files, the HEIC files that the iPhone takes.
Yeah.
It actually reads them now in the app, which is excellent, of course.
That's good.
Yeah, I mean, for a Photos app to actually read the photos that I take is really handy. In fact, it recognizes the live photos as live photos, which is convenient. The other thing I'm liking is because it's so simple to come up. Like, so we went shopping the other day, and while I was sitting around with my daughter while we were waiting for other people to finish trying on clothes and stuff, I sat there and I actually organized photos on my phone, and I can select all of the JPEGs, HEICs, and videos all at the same time and organize them all together, which is very nice. Oh, also, I was very pleased too. The speed of the changes that I was making was the same speed as when I was at home. So I think one of the things it did for me, I noticed that I was doing this and I was choosing to do this while we were shopping, not because I was interested, but because I wanted to do it, over playing my Disco Zoo game. I know, right? If I had the time, I would have chosen to play Disco Zoo before. But now it's like, no, I'll organize photos. So now I feel like I'm actually getting something done.
Yeah.
It's kind of nice.
Yeah, because I'm going to tell you, if you had gone back to Disco Zoo, I would have just... I think I'm getting to the point where I need to get you to play something else. But if you're being productive with that time, then, well, I guess I'll let you be productive.
And I'm very pleased that the migration went smoothly, too, that I didn't lose any of my photos. It didn't seem like I did. I mean, I guess maybe I did, but I can't tell that from looking. I didn't count them one by one after it was finished. Sorry.
You didn't?
No, too many.
For my game corner today, I'm going to talk to you about a game that I got on my PS5 for free because of PlayStation Plus and all that stuff. But it was one of the PS5 games I have right now, and I want to talk about it because it is both adorable and ridiculous and wonderful all at the same time. And it's called Bugsnax.
Bugsnax, huh?
Bugsnax. It's a game that I think if you had a PS5, I could see you and your daughters playing it. So the basic premise is there is an island where you find these creatures that are half bug and half snack creatures. So when you first arrive on the island, you're attacked by what seems like a giant bird or giant moth that is made out of pizza. And there are little strawberries that run around on four legs called strawbies. They all have ridiculous names. There's like strawbies, there's bungers, which are basically a burger that is something like a crab. There's shish kebab, frieders, all things like that. And so the basic premise is there is this island, and somebody has invited you to this island to discover the secret of Bugsnax and why they are what they are and why they exist. And you are a reporter going to investigate this. But by the time you've gotten there, the person who has invited you is missing. The village has been mostly abandoned. And your goal is to figure out what has happened and to bring the village back together. And you do this by catching Bugsnax and feeding them to villagers and doing things like that. But there is some interesting things with Bugsnax. For example, when you feed a Bugsnax to a person, their body actually adopts some of the characteristics of the snack they just ate. So when they eat a strawberry, which is a strawberry that runs on the leaves, their arm could turn into a strawberry and things like that. And so it's very interesting because you can feed them things like bungers and fritters and basically turn them into a set meal and things like that. But so there is a whole bunch of other things that are happening in the background. There's a darker purpose behind everything that is looming behind the scenes, and you don't know what's happening, but you're just running around trying to catch some Bugsnax and feed them to the people of the village, and it's cute, adorable, and weird all at the same time.
So your objective is to figure out what's going on behind the scenes?
Yeah, your objective is to figure out what's going on behind the scenes. I am trying to avoid saying too much because it is a story thing where because you're trying to discover what's happening, you discover different things. So you rescue this person and bring them back to the village, and then you get to interview them and figure out what happened. Well, some of the things that you find out from the interviews go, okay, that's a little weird. And then you find out more and more about what happened and figure out what has happened to the village, what has happened to the person who has invited you, and all sorts of things. But yeah, your goal is to figure out what has happened and what is the truth of this island. So yeah, it's a fun little game. Very light, very colorful, at least as of the spot that I got to in the game, because I've only had a few little bits of time to play this game, but a lot of fun.
Sounds good. So today, because the book that we talk about has teachers that were impactful to the characters in the book, we decided that we would talk about 2 teachers who have impacted us in some way in our education. So, yep, I'll begin. I think I'm going to start with when I first started high school, we did not have block scheduling. We moved to block scheduling about after my sophomore year. So my first 2 years, we didn't have block scheduling, and my last 2 years, we did. And I liked the transition. But anyway, so since my first years, we had 7 periods a day. I interestingly had one teacher for 3 of the 7 periods. He was quite the teacher because he taught Bible and Latin and orchestra, and I had him for all 3 classes. So that was kind of interesting. And one of the things that amazed me was that he could do that he could teach Bible and Latin and orchestra and be good at all of them. And I thought he was pretty good at all of them. I enjoyed his Latin classes. I remember the first day of Latin, he taught us how to say something, because everybody's going to ask you how to say something in Latin, and then you can tell them how to say something. Of course, I completely forget what it is now, but that was kind of fun. And I think I took 2 years of Latin with him, so I think I had him for my sophomore year too. And orchestra was always a great class. He always picked some great music, and I played bass violin, and I enjoyed playing bass violin with him. And he got to a point, and a bunch of teachers did too, but he got to a point where he could ask me to do things in the sound booth because I happened to work there. And he could trust me with those things to do during orchestra time. For instance, we would watch Amadeus in the last week of school every school year, which is kind of fun, a fun thing to do. I guess it's high school appropriate, that movie. It was definitely borderline high school appropriate.
Yeah, it is. It's fine.
Especially during my junior and senior year. After the auditorium was renovated, I definitely enjoyed running the sound system and watching Amadeus in the auditorium those times. So anyway, I had a fun time with Mr. Lucas, his name was, and I enjoyed having him for Bible and Latin and orchestra. So he was a very nice guy, and I enjoyed him as a teacher.
Yeah. Well, first one I want to talk about is I had a history teacher. He was my world history teacher in high school, called Mr. Dager. Now, he was interesting. Interesting is the best way I can describe him, because he was a teacher who would capture every student's attention. You walked in and everybody had their eyes fixed on him, because honestly, you never quite knew where the lesson was going to go, and he would do a bunch of very interesting things to keep history and the class very vivid and very alive for all of us. But a few things that I definitely remember about him is he would do things like, at one point when he had finished introducing Japan, actually, in our world history class, he decided that he was going to spend one day where we watched the episode of The Simpsons, where the Simpsons family visited Japan. And the reason why we did that is because then he wanted to show us exactly how clever that show was, at least at that time, because every 30 seconds to a minute, he would pause it, point out the reference they made to something, and go, well, here they're talking about the story of the 47 Ronin, which is an old story that has been adapted into a lot of movies, a lot of kabuki, a lot of different things. So he's just going through each and everything, pointing all that out, pointing out how history is even being shown in our pop culture. He would do that. He would talk a lot about how different parts of history affected our world today. He was just a teacher who caught everybody's attention and really made the subject alive for a lot of us and made us very interested in the whole subject. Now, another thing I remember about him is I wasn't always the best student. So I could listen and focus on something else at another time, kind of. And in 2002, while I was in his class one day, I was reading a book called Shadow Puppets, which was from the series of Ender's Shadow.
Oh, yeah. I was like, I know I heard that title before. Mm-hmm.
Well, Shadow Puppets came out that year. I was really big into the Ender's Game and Ender's Shadow series. I really loved reading those books as a kid. And, I still enjoy those stories. Don't get me started on how the movie ruined the actual story of Ender's Game, because I will go on a rant about that, but I digress. But I was reading Shadow Puppets. Basically, anytime that I was not in school, I was reading that book, trying to get through it because it had just come out. So partway through that class, I had, because I couldn't stop thinking about it, snuck out the book, put it underneath my desk, and was continuing to read this novel in the middle of class. One of the things that I remember that he did is he walked over, he grabbed the book from my hands, set it on top of my desk, and said, "Are you still listening to me, Ryan?" And I said, "Yes, I'm still understanding. I'm still listening to what you're talking about." "Then don't hide that you're also reading. It's fine."
So he was okay with you reading. He just wanted to make sure you understood.
As long as I understood the class, he was fine with me reading in that class for some reason, because he knew that I really wanted to finish that book. And I think he also wanted to encourage students, choosing to read.
Mm-mm.
But he was a teacher who really genuinely showed that he cared about his students, cared about his subject, and cared about making us passionate about learning.
Well, my second teacher, unfortunately, I don't remember her name. I was trying to think of that. I don't actually remember her name because she was only at the school for 1 year. She was new my senior year, and I don't even know how long she stayed. I don't think she's not still there. But she was my senior English teacher, and she was pretty recent out of college. And she definitely made English more fun than the previous teachers. The previous teachers didn't do a bad job. In fact, I liked my junior English teacher also. But I think one of the things that struck me was when we were taking essays one time in class. I think it was a test. We were writing essays for a test. And I asked her a question that I was sure she would say no to. I said, could I go to the yearbook room and type up the essay on a computer and print it out for the end of class? And I was sure she would say no because, everybody's handwriting their essays at their desks. Why do I get to go to the yearbook room and type up my essay? Right? Like, it seems completely unfair to me. But she said yes. So I skedaddled myself to the yearbook room and typed it up as fast as I could and printed it out. And one of the big reasons was, and maybe she recognized this in me. I don't really know. Maybe she just had more trust of me than I expected. But maybe she recognized that I can't write essays from start to finish. I can't start at the intro and have all my thoughts completely formulated in such a way that I can write them all from beginning to very end. As soon as I got to the yearbook room, I started writing the middle paragraphs, my supporting paragraphs, and then wrote my introduction and then wrote my conclusion. So, that's the way I think most of the time. I was pleased that she allowed me to do that. I mean, I think if I did have to handwrite it, I would have left space for an introduction and then, started my 3 paragraphs and then tried to squeeze everything together, hopefully leaving enough space for everything that I needed to do. But this was the biggest moment where I was like, well, this teacher, I don't know if this teacher gets me, And I think I'm probably not giving her enough credit. I think she probably did recognize that in me, but she definitely was able to trust me enough to say, yeah, go to the yearbook room and type it up. And I don't think those computers were connected to the internet back then. So I don't think it was a problem of me looking things up on the internet to find answers, because this was in the late 90s. And I think the computer lab had stuff hooked up to the internet, but the yearbook room had a local area network so that we could print off of one printer and we could share files between the Macs. And we're talking local talk with telephone wires that I had fun putting through the drop ceiling. But anyway, that's another story. So it wasn't that I was going to be able to cheat or anything. And then I realized, well, she said yes, so that means I have to finish within the period. But at least it was block scheduling back then, so I had some extra time.
Mm-hmm.
I remember her teaching some good books, and actually, I think I actually read the English books that year. I mean, I think it's something interesting to say, but I think I actually read the books that were assigned. So,
I expect all my students to always read every book that I've assigned fully.
Well, I'm trying to remember if that was the year. I can't remember or not. But one year we were assigned to read Les Mis. And there was a stack of books, and one was different, and I grabbed the one that was different. And then I found out later that it was actually 100 pages shorter. Because they were all the abridged version. No, we didn't read the full thing.
Mm-hmm.
But the abridged version I had was 100 pages shorter than the rest of them. I was like, aha, I got the short one. Of course, it did make it super inconvenient whenever she assigned homework. I had to ask somebody else to look at their book to see, she's going from this part of the book to this part of the book. So that means it's this page to this page in my book. And one time she called on me and said, well, Nate's book has something different than the rest of them. Nate, what did you read last night? And I was like, whew, at least I read it. Here's what I read. She's like, yep, that story's not in the abridged versions of the other books. You have it in your abridged version, but it's not in everyone else's. And I was like, whew, I read that part. I think I probably read 80-ish% of that assigned reading. I didn't skip every night, but I did skip some. But at least I read the one.
That she called on you?
Yeah. But I actually did read most of that one. Well, most of the abridged version. So, yeah, not really most of the book. And I'm sure the abridged version is 10% of the full book, right? Isn't the full book like lots of pages?
Oh, yeah. How many pages did you read on?
I think their book was 600 pages and my book was 500.
Yeah. The unabridged is 1,500 pages, about.
Oh, a third. Yeah.
A third. A bit longer.
All right, so your next teacher.
Yeah, my next teacher. So, all right, let's see if I remember his name. Yes, his name was Mr. Patrick. He was my history teacher as well, but for middle school.
Oh, okay.
The thing that I remember the most about Mr. Patrick was he was the teacher who was the first one, I think, in my life who taught world history from the perspective of everything you've learned is a lie. I'm oversimplifying a bit, but he was the teacher who originally taught me about the fact that, hey, some of the things that you've learned in elementary school were not as clean and pretty as you've been taught in the past. The number one example I always think of is Christopher Columbus. He was the first teacher who was like, yeah, you know that story about this guy who sailed the ocean blue and landed on the island near America and met with the natives and did all these things and helped lead other people to America? Oh yeah, he's a murderer. And the thing that I remember the most is that teacher, Mr. Patrick, he was also another teacher who loved to bring students into the lesson, who loved to capture your attention, make it alive for you. But he was also one who taught you to question, taught you to say, okay, this is what has been taught. Is that actually the facts? And having you dive into doing your own research, doing your own critical thinking, and those sort of things. And I really appreciate that because I do realize that that has shaped, it helped me learn how to learn better through, not necessarily through doubt, but through questioning, through that sort of, okay, well, these sort of things are what is being presented. Well, let's think critically about this. Is this actually the case? And the idea that all the history that has been presented in a large part, has been written by whoever won the war. Those sort of thoughts and those sort of ideas. And yeah, he was the first teacher to really teach from that perspective of, hey, not everything is as clean and clear-cut as it's been presented. Not everything's so pretty and whitewashed that we've made it. The world, the history that we know, it's messy. And how people interact with each other in the past and today, it hasn't changed. It's messy. So the study of history is the study of how people interacted with each other and how people are. So think about what that means. And I feel like for me, he definitely influenced me thinking critically about that, thinking critically on what does it mean to relate and think about people's interactions, not only in their own countries, but abroad, and thinking about how people interact and care for other people and are empathetic to other people around the world. I think those sort of things really shaped my thinking and shaped how I approach things because he taught me to question. That was a very good thing that I'm very appreciative of in the fact that he taught that in my, what was it, 5th or 6th grade history class.
I mean, I guess there's other teachers that have impacted me too, so I guess we're cutting that.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe we'll have to do this again, another pick two.
I thought about talking about the computer science teacher who, after we finished all of our programs, played Doom with us.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I thought about talking about the English teacher who, despite a lot of mistakes, showed me a lot of kindness and mercy. And then I thought about all of my college professors, because I think those professors really helped shape how my brain processes certain things.
Yeah, I had a good high school chemistry teacher.
Mm-hmm. I had a good physics teacher. He was very understanding. I was the youngest student in that class and also was the one getting the highest grade. I slept a lot in that class, but I was the youngest and getting the highest grade, but the one who was also consistently asleep in the class. And so I think he was just very nice and kind to me because I should not have been given that much leeway. But hey, he only brought the fact that I was sleeping in class to attention once.
Oh, good.
And he did so because he loved using a document camera. And one day he looks up and notices that I am completely out that day. And he just takes the document camera and just swivels it up so it's focused directly on me. And then I hear laughing and I open my eyes and go, oh, that's me. I should probably sit up. But yeah, lots of good stories about teachers.
Alrighty, Ryan. Today we have something interesting.
Which one?
The drink first, I think. KitKats, I think, are fairly normal, actually.
Yeah, I think the KitKats are pretty normal.
The drink. Mitsuya cider, honey lemon. Well, actually, and is it cider or it doesn't actually say?
It says it is a limited reproduction of Mitsuya Hachi Lemon, which was sold in 1990.
And in that little picture inset there, it does say Hachimitsu lemon cider. So honey is Hachimitsu. In fact, I think it's fun. It says Hachi Demo as the name of the drink.
Yep.
Which is a shortening of Hachimitsu being honey and lemon.
The one thing that I do notice is, if you notice on the can reproduction that they show a picture of, how much juice is in there?
Yeah, I was seeing that too. 3% fruit juice back in 1990.
How much fruit juice is in this bottle?
1% today. Somewhere they lost a few lemons.
Maybe it's because the bottle is bigger than the can?
That doesn't change percentage. That's how percentage works. Maybe they just squeezed more honey out of the bees.
I don't want the image of people squeezing bees in my drink.
My daughter watched a bee movie today.
Why would you do that to her?
She picked it. Yeah, it's a weird movie. Why would bees be involved in a court case? Why would Jerry Seinfeld be involved in animation? Both those questions I still don't know the answer to.
Why would a human woman fall in love with a bee?
Yeah, there is that too. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyway, hachi lemon.
Hachi lemon. Okay, so here's the question. Do you think they're trying to make a CC lemon?
No, I don't think so. I do not think that this is going to be a CC lemon. I think CC lemon is a very strong artificial lemon flavor.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like this is going to be mostly cider with hints of lemon and honey. That's what I'm going to think. I'm thinking that the predominant flavor is going to be cider.
Okay. It's not a sweet lemonade, perhaps.
Yeah.
I think I'm leaning more towards sweet lemonade. That's what I think it's going to be. But let's see.
All right.
I think we're both wrong.
Yeah. I think we're both wrong. The lemon was stronger than I was thinking.
Mm-hmm. But the honey is very strong, too.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not lemonade.
Yeah, it is. It's actually a pretty decent mix.
It is. It's sweeter than I expect every time.
It's not as heavy on the cider that I was expecting. I was expecting it to taste mostly like cider, mostly like soda water, and having the lemon and honey almost be an afterthought. But no, I feel like this is pretty pervasive.
It's closer to CC lemon than what we were guessing.
Oh, yeah. You remember the rich honey CC lemon?
Yeah.
I think
it's a better mix of that, though, right?
That's what I was going to say. I was going to say it tastes like a rich honey CC lemon that's been done right.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I don't think it's excellent, though.
No.
I'm trying to figure out where I stand on it. It's not bad, but...
I'm going to go with a 6 for me.
It's high.
Yeah, well, because here's the thing. I'm looking back at our previous couple of scores, and I feel like it's better than the green apple Calpis, and I gave that a 5. So maybe a 5.5. That's right. I'm adding decimals into this.
Oh, don't add decimals. I'm going to go with a 5. You can go with a 6. I think you can go with a 6.
5.72.
We have a 10-point scale, Ryan. Do we really need decimals?
Yes. We always need decimals. Who doesn't need decimals?
Yeah, I think this is just passing. So that's why I'm giving it a 5.
I think I'll give it a 6. Because I'm going to round up. I feel like on a 10-point scale, because you're not allowing me decimals, I have to give rounding error.
Sorry.
So for those that I feel are like a 5.2, I'd round to 5. For those that I feel like is a 5.5, I have to round it up to a 6. So help me one of these days.
Well, then what we'll do is we'll buy all the drinks that are in the 6 range and then rank them and give them a decimal. Sorry.
I don't think we can do that.
No, we can't.
Because most of these, after we've bought them, they're all gone at least for a year.
Well, and this one's only going to come out 30 years from now again. If it came out in 1990 and it came out again now in 2021, we're not going to see it until 2052.
I don't know.
It's a long time from now.
I'll be old.
It'll be Reiwa 34.
That is if we're still in Reiwa at that point.
I know. Yeah, not bad.
Yeah.
If this was in a drink bar, I think I would try it.
Oh, yeah. Truly, I feel like this is a 5.5, but rounding error to 6. It is pretty simply a solid cider drink that doesn't feel like an overwhelming cider taste.
Right. Just tasting it now, I could taste the cider. If the honey was less strong, it would taste more like cider.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it masks it well in a good flavor. So
oftentimes, like soda water and cider feel so overwhelmingly like that's the predominant flavor that I tend not to like them. So given that this is masked so well, probably gives me the positive impression of this.
I guess what I'm trying to figure out, I think I actually like Mitsuya cider more than this.
Really?
Because I think this flavor is a bit overwhelming for me.
Okay.
Still passing, but I think I would drink Mitsuya. If I had a choice, I think I would drink regular Mitsuya cider.
All right. Well, I think it's time for the very normal sounding Kit Kat.
This is Kit Kat Mint, and I'm a big flavor. I'm a big flavor of the mint flavor.
You're a big flavor of mint favorite.
I am a big favorite of mint flavor. That's not even better, is it?
You're a big flavor of mint fan.
Exactly, that's the one. I am a big fan of the mint flavor. Chocolate mint chip is one of my favorites, especially if it's Turkey Hill ice cream back in the day. But anyway, they don't have Turkey Hill in Japan, too bad. But the mint flavor is a favorite of mine. So I am kind of looking forward to this one. I think this one might be good. In fact, I took it out today to take a picture for the show notes. And my daughter was like, "Oh, I had some mint ones. They were good." And I was like, "Don't tell me that."
Spoilers.
I trust her.
Yeah.
She's a big chocolate fan. So I think they'll be good too. It is black chocolate, milk chocolate.
Yeah.
But actually, it's got a green filling. This is pretty good.
Yeah. So when you say a green filling, I just want the listeners to know the wafer has been slightly tinted to a light green, not like a fluorescent green.
Right. Sorry.
It is like the green of... How to describe that green?
Pistachio.
I would almost say you get a pistachio, and if you've like minced up pistachio and you blend it in with like milk.
So a little even lighter.
So even lighter than pistachios. But it's very good. It is very good.
It is. It is very good. I think this is going to rank pretty high.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you can't go wrong with Choco Mint.
Do I go all the way to 9?
I
don't remember how it compared to raspberry. Apparently we rated raspberry pretty high.
Yeah, well, raspberry was excellent. I would put it slightly behind raspberry, I think. But I really like raspberry flavoring. I like this, but I guess the reason why I would say slightly behind raspberry is this almost seems too normal.
I was thinking that. But although one thing I was thinking is that it's actually not overly sweet. Again, I'm not making that comment again that this is, wow, this was sweet. So, yes, it's normal, but I think it's good.
It's good, but...
I think it's good and it's normal.
It's good, it's normal. Like I said, it feels very normal. So, I'm going to say, with rounding error, I'm going to give it an 8, because I'm only going to put it slightly behind raspberry, which I gave an 8 before.
I'm going to leave mine at 9, because I think this is good.
All right.
I don't remember how it compares to raspberry, but I do think I like mint better than raspberry.
I really like raspberry flavoring, but I'm at least going to put it equal with raspberry.
I had Ryan read a book from my childhood.
A book that I had not read.
Not from his childhood.
Not from my childhood.
It is called A Bridge to Terabithia by Catherine Patterson.
Mm-hmm.
It is a book that won the Newbery Award in 1978. So I wanted to see what Ryan thought, but before we get there...
Yep. As always, let me just say that if you have not read the book, stop now, read the book. It's a very short book. It will not take you very long. It is a good book. Do not let me spoil this.
Well, and I'll say I prolonged my... interestingly, it's a very short book. I read like 2 chapters at a time with like 3 days in between each time I read it. So I prolonged it as long as I could, really. I think I made it like a week and a half just by going really slowly through the book. But it was fun. And I read the physical book this time because I had one.
And I have the audiobook, and the audiobook, if you're listening to it at regular speed, is only about 3.5 hours. So if you listen to it as I normally do at about 1.5, you're looking at about 2.5, 3 hour book. So if you have read the book and you just can't remember all the little details, I'll give you a bit of a summary so that you can get caught up and be involved in our discussion. Bridge to Terabithia is a story from the perspective of Jess Aarons, a young boy living in a small farming community. At the beginning of the book, he is struggling to deal with his family and dynamics in his family life. And while he's doing that, he's practicing running because he is determined that he is going to be the fastest boy in 5th grade at the beginning of the next year. While this is all happening, a young girl moves next door. The girl, Leslie, begins to follow him around and tries to get to know him a bit because they are next-door neighbors and all that. They are also in the same grade. During recess on that first school day, he invites her to race with them because she's hanging out near the boys. And she wins the race, so he ends up not being the fastest in 5th grade. But after some time and some experiences, even despite the fact that Jess originally didn't care much for Leslie, they become very close friends. And as they spend more time together, one of the things they realize and discover is an old rope swing. a rope that is suspended over a riverbed, where after they swing on it, they find a new kingdom that they can make for themselves, a kingdom called Terabithia, where they imagine themselves to be the king and queen and rule over this land that they have discovered on the other side of this river. They grow to support and rely on each other. For example, one time they publicly embarrass Janice Avery, a local bully, after she steals the Twinkie from Jess's sister. But also, Jess pushes Leslie to help Janice after she is found crying in the bathroom because she revealed that her father beats her. Jess also enjoyed spending time with Leslie and spending time with Leslie's family. And eventually he even gets her a dog as a Christmas present. But one day, he's invited to the museum by one of his school teachers, Miss Edmonds, a teacher he's actually a little sweet on. However, when he gets back from the museum that day, he hears that Leslie tried to go to Terabithia alone, and when she did, the rope broke, and Leslie died by drowning in the river underneath. Jess struggled for the next few days in a state of being numb and not knowing how to think or how to act. The adults in his life try to support him, try to be gentle with him, and he doesn't know how to move on or what to do. Eventually, after Leslie's parents move away, he takes some of the wood from their house and builds a bridge where the rope used to be, leading back to Terabithia. And he invites his little sister along, where he teaches her how to be a queen of Terabithia.
So Ryan, what do you think?
I was very sad by the end of the book.
Yeah, it's a very sad ending.
It is a very sad ending. I did not know how to, Leslie dying at the end of the book is just such a sad ending.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the number one thing. I thought it was a very good book. I thought it was a very meaningful book. I thought I got into Jess's head very well written, but it was so sad.
The characters are well written, and
they're believable.
They're believable, and they all very different, right? Like each sibling has their quirks, and you see that.
And since it is written from Jess's perspective, you see the characters as he sees them. So he has older sisters who he describes as like flouncing all over the place. Those sort of things, yeah.
Or clingy, like the little ones. But even, I liked, he doesn't understand it. Now I think we do, and they pointed out at the end of the book, but like Miss Myers, his homeroom teacher, who is supposed to be very strict and upright and doesn't smile, yet then she meets Leslie and starts smiling. And he's like, wow, Leslie has cracked Miss Myers.
Mm-hmm.
And she eventually does admit that at the end to Jess. But we can see that, but he doesn't understand why. Why is she smiling around Miss Myers? He can see what's happening, but doesn't understand how it has affected her.
Yeah. And I like that Leslie was a character who, despite everything that was expected of her, she was willing to be different. Perhaps that was due to the fact that she realized she had support from other people.
Yeah, her parents, perhaps. Mm-hmm.
Her parents, and eventually Jess. She got that support, especially after she revealed that she didn't have a TV, and everybody was like, oh, you don't have a TV? And yet Jess was able to support her in that. I think after that, she began to rely on him, and so she was willing to be different, be a girl who was willing to play with Jess rather than go and play hopscotch like the rest of the girls.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
At least that's how Jess presented her.
I think one of the things, too, is there are a lot of books out there that are like about the weird girl who changes the world for her friends, and then she's now accepted, right? At least there's at least a few books like that. I think Stargirl's one of them by Lewis Sucker. There's a few, and they're fine. But I didn't ever connect with those books because I wasn't the weird person in school. And I think this is one of the reasons why I really like this book, I think, is because the book is about Jess,
mm-hmm.
who is not that weird.
Well, he's
a normal boy, but he likes to paint as opposed to watch the Redskins games.
Yeah.
That everyone else likes to do, or get into tussles. He doesn't do that either. But, he does all the same boy things. He has to milk cows. He has to do other things. He is manly still. He likes to run, right? but he's still slightly different. And the book is definitely about him coming into himself, right? So I think one of the things I like is that the book is about him coming into himself, somebody who is just learning to accept his specialness, who is only slightly not normal. I feel like that's where I was in life. Like, I feel like I'm mostly normal, maybe on the boring side of normal, perhaps, or the nerdy side of normal, depending on how you define normal. But, so I'm slightly that way.
I always viewed myself as being in the not normal category, at least not what was normally accepted or as the popular or
as the popular normal,
as the more popular normal, or as the more commonly understood version of normal.
Yeah, I think I always felt like I was just outside of normal, but only just outside of normal.
I always viewed myself as the weird kid. That whether or not that was true, I viewed myself that way.
So, and I didn't think it was bad. I never thought it was bad to be that way either. And apparently you didn't either. But
no, I fully embraced it.
Yeah.
Quite honestly, one of the things I said a lot growing up was I thought normal was boring.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
And so I fully embraced being the weird kid.
So I liked this book because, to me, it matched me, right? It fit me more than other book characters do, who are portrayed to be much weirder than normal. And then how do you survive that?
You felt like this character was a easier reader analog.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it did take somebody like Leslie to release him from his funk. We all don't need that, but I think he did.
Yeah. Few things that I would like to point out before we go further into the story. The background of this being written, apparently the author wrote it based upon the experiences of her own son, who his best friend was struck by lightning at the age of 9 and died.
Oh, really? I didn't know.
Yeah. She lived in Maryland for a while, a suburb of Washington, D.C. During that time, one of her son's best friends was struck by lightning when she was 8 years old and died. Mm-hmm. And so she wrote that basically as an analog of her son and their best friend. Mm. So her son being the Jess character and the best friend being the one who was struck by lightning in real life was instead the rope broke. Mm-hmm. So that was a very interesting thing to me, which if you look at the dedication at the front of the book, it says it was written for David and Lisa, David being her son and Lisa being the girl who died. Hmm. I think that is partially why many of the characters are so real, is because she based those experiences on, and those characters on, people who she saw, who she interacted with, who were her family.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other big things that I liked about this book was basically Jess's reaction, or multiple reactions, to the death of Leslie.
Yeah.
And how, he just doesn't get it right. And I feel like that is often the way I am with emotion too. I will react and not get it right. I even loved the fact that he thought, oh, now I'm the fastest boy in 5th grade.
And then he hated himself that thought even popped into his head.
Because those kinds of thoughts sometimes come to me too in bad situations. Like, oh, great, now I'm this.
It's the defense mechanism that sets it as if this is something so distant from me that I can try to look at this as something objective. Like, oh, so this is the situation that is now reality. Mm-hmm. So it feels like you're trying to be objective about it. And so those thoughts pop into your head because you're trying to almost look at this experience as an object or an outside thing.
Often I think, as a programmer, I will often think in if statements, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't always register in my head, right? But I think this is one of his if statements, right? Like, oh, I wanted to be the fastest boy in 5th grade, but the thing that's preventing me is Leslie. Oh, now she's out of the picture. Now I'm the fastest boy in 5th grade. Mm. Oh, well, I wouldn't have solved it that way if I had a choice.
Yeah.
But, these are the hindrances of certain objectives in my life. And now I realize, oh, that hindrance went away. If I had a thought like that, I just realized it as, oh, I don't need to think that, but
Yeah.
I don't fight back as much as he did. But I do see what you're saying, though, that I'm making it objective.
Yeah.
That's probably true.
I mean, I know that if I'm thinking and a thought like that pops into my head, like, I would immediately rage against myself for even allowing that thought to pop into my head. I realize that is the type of person I am. I would be like, no, how dare you even think that, Ryan?
My thoughts more are, yeah, that's true. I didn't want to solve the problem with that solution. That's usually the way I go when I have those.
Yeah. I will say that it is very interesting seeing all those different responses he got from those adults that he felt were very distant. So the teacher, who he had a very low opinion of her throughout the entire book, and then all of a sudden her openly crying with him.
Mm-hmm.
His father, who
finally becomes a father to him, right?
Yeah, who finally becomes a real father to him. I mean, I can't say too much because, yeah, the father during that time was driving all the way to Washington to keep the family afloat and then lost his job at that time. But
Right. I mean, it's the first time we read about it in the book that he was a father to him. It could have been, before the book he was a better father, but it does sound like, from what Jess was saying, that he was missing his father being a father to him.
Yeah.
But at least his father delivers when he needed to.
Mm-hmm.
I really liked when the father, though, says that when he threw the paints into the river, and his father says that was a fool thing to do, right?
Yep.
And it's interesting that he says that, because it does sound like the father then has accepted his painting.
Yeah.
Has accepted the weirdness in his son, perhaps.
Maybe not weirdness, but the things that make him unique.
Yes, exactly. The things that make him special. Where we hadn't heard that at all.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe the father accepted it much earlier. We don't really know. We know that Jess is hesitant to show his father his work. So at some point, his father was hesitant to accept his specialness or his talents. But at least his father has accepted it by the time he needed to at that river at that point. So that was good. And maybe he accepted it earlier. We just don't know because, again, he just hadn't had enough time to spend with Jess. But I'm glad he delivered at the right time for sure.
Yep. It is very interesting to me that this book is actually been frequently challenged and frequently requested to be censored.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Because of the death?
Actually, the majority of it is due to profanity, vulgar language, references to witchcraft, satanic imagery.
Wow. References to witchcraft?
Yeah.
Well, the only religious scene that stuck out to me was Easter.
Yeah, well, the references to witchcraft, I think, is like when they're talking about Terabithia.
Oh.
They talk about like magic and things like that, but
no more than any other fantasy book would.
Exactly. Now, keep in mind, most of those challenges came from like the late 90s, early 2000s, when also Harry Potter was being challenged a lot for that same stuff.
I mean, she was a kid. To me, she was a kid being a kid playing.
Yeah.
I guess one of my questions for you is, I think the ending has to be that way. The ending definitely adds weight to the book, right? I mean, it adds a lot to it.
Mm-hmm.
If it didn't have it, would it still be a good book? I don't know, because the death was the catalyst for Jess to break out of his shell, to realize that he can be special even without Leslie. Or it might have taken Jess a lot longer to get to that point, perhaps, I guess. Maybe not too much longer, because maybe he was getting there anyway, because he was about to say to Leslie that he didn't want to go across, right?
I think he had allowed himself to be special before her death. I think it's the fact that at that point, with her death, in addition to coming to realize who he was, he also had to deal with who he was without her. Because they had become so much of a team, so much of a unit, so much of this group, that it felt like this part of him has now been cut off. And so him needing to come to grips with that loss. And I think while it's a short book, the fact that it deals with that loss in this way is what makes the book powerful.
I almost think that his time with Miss Myers might be the most impactful for him. Maybe second to being with his father, I guess, maybe. Yeah, his father probably was more impactful.
Yeah.
I almost love how his time with Miss Myers, realizing that he doesn't have to forget Leslie.
That he can carry
His memories forward, even if they remove the desk from the room right away, which does seem a bit insensitive to me.
And they can do that, and then he can carry the lessons that he learned from her and bring his sister along now, which is what he does. He says, well, I'm going to share with you this thing that has brought me so much joy.
Right. I'm going to bring other people through Terabithia so that they might grow and learn as well.
They might feel the same fulfillment, the same joy, the same happiness that I felt while I was here with Leslie.
I think another thing I like, this is a little bit more minor, but I do like the realization that he has that these things are seasonal, right? You will have these moments and they won't come again. The next moment will have its own fun. But the moment that you had back then, that won't come again. You'll just have different fun moments. That took me a lot longer to realize than I would like to say in my life. You know, I mean, camp is a good example, right? I went to camp and I had fun this summer. I'm going to go to camp and I'm not going to have fun the same way. I'm going to have a different kind of fun. But as much as I try to make it fun the same way, it's not going to be fun the same way. And I need to give up the fact that it won't be ever the same way. Just make it fun in its own way and figure out how it's fun in its new way. So anyway,
yeah,
that's another lesson I liked.
I also liked the fact that in addition to their little castle that they made in Terabithia, the other place they had was the wooded area. And the thing that I liked about that is they said the purpose of this is twofold, for places of great sorrow and great happiness. And I feel like having both of those things, be the highs and the lows, be centered around that place was very good.
It's a very inside-out moment. With great joy also comes great sadness. Well, not always, but still, often.
I found this quote, I believe, it says it's from the author, but I don't have an exact place where this quote came from, but I do think that this clarifies what she was thinking with how she ended the story. I wrote Bridge to Terabithia in a time of distress for my own family more than 25 years ago. Our son David's best friend, a bright, lively, imaginative 8-year-old girl, was struck and killed by lightning. David couldn't understand why a horrible thing should happen. None of us could understand. So, because I could not bring Lisa back from the dead, indeed, I could not even comfort my heartbroken child, I began to write a story to try to make sense of a tragedy that truly did not make sense. A story, though, has a beginning, a middle, and an end, and when you come to the end, and somehow the beginning and the middle become clearer to you, not in some rational way that you can explain to somebody else, but in your heart and in your emotions. Art, whether it be graphic images, music, or even the words of a story, has the power to touch us below the level of argument or logic. In times of fear and grief, we humans crave this comfort for ourselves and seek to share it with one another. I think that kind of exemplifies why she ended it the way she did, is because she was trying to explain the unexplainable. She was trying to find comfort in this time where no comfort could be found for her own family. I think more than what I could say, I think that is what
sums it up nicely.
Yep.
Well, yeah, I think it's a good book.
I thought it was a good book. I thought it was very meaningful, very deep, very sad.
Very sad. You know, even reading it this time and hearing Maybelle say to Leslie, "But what if you die?" And I'm thinking, oh, just wait a few chapters. Oh, sadness coming.
Yeah.
But anyway. The nerd that I am, I have called my router the bridge because my house is called Terabithia. So my router is the bridge to Terabithia.
Well, I'm glad that you have invited my audiophiles to cross the bridge to Terabithia.
Yes. All of my talking to you over audio chat and everybody listening has had files go through my bridge to Terabithia.
So Nate,
what do you got for me?
Next time, I got a treat for you. I'm going to have you watch my favorite Miyazaki film.
Okay. Yeah, we've watched a few on our podcast so far.
Have we?
No, we haven't watched any.
I don't think we've watched any.
Oh, right. Okay, sorry. This will be good.
Yeah, yeah. So, as we have not watched any of them, I'm going to start you with my favorite one, which is Princess Mononoke. Or, if you prefer the Japanese title, Mononoke Hime.
Sounds good to me.
I'm really looking forward to it. I know it's been a long, long time since you've actually seen it.
Yeah, I saw it in college when I was studying here in Japan. And it wasn't a great experience because we watched it in Japanese, and I didn't, I still don't know enough Japanese to understand it. And I'm pretty sure I had a paper transcript in front of me, so there was no subtitles even. I think I was reading through a paper transcript while I was watching.
Oofda. That sounds painful.
Yeah.
Well, I will say that this is a movie that, if you choose to, the English audio cast that Disney got was an excellent cast. So if you choose to, the English cast is also good.
Looking forward to it.
I'm looking forward to having you watch it. Well, we hope you found something nice about this hill that we were willing to die on, and we appreciate all of our listeners coming along with us through this journey. And if you ever thought, hey, I'd really like to support these guys and make sure that they are able to continue doing these podcasts and continuing to talk about these different hills that they're willing to die on, know that you can. You can visit myhilltodieon.com/members for more details. But the conversation doesn't have to end here. The discussion can continue with us through Reddit at r/myhilltodieon, or by contacting us through Twitter at myhilltodieon, or you can reach us by email, which is, to no one's surprise, myhilltodieon@gmail.com. And finally, we upload all of our episodes to our YouTube channel, which is also, say it with me now, folks, My Hill to Die On.
Oh, the board databases are now on its own server. So that doesn't need to be here either. I should be thinking about this tomorrow, I guess. Yeah, the board databases are on its own server. So I can clear it off of here. I'm just going to double check real quick.
No worries.
Before I delete that stuff.
No worries.
Yeah, connects to its own server. So don't need these either. Probably should go through the Phoenix database and see what tables are actually used. Like all of the Easy Grade Pro tables are not used anymore. I can tell you that right now. Because we haven't done Easy Grade Pro for, 4 years now.
Has it only been 4 years?
5? Might be 5.
I think it's 5 because I'm trying to remember if the first year I was here we still used Easy Grade Pro, simply because the first year I was here all I taught was yearbook, and so it wasn't really grading. Maybe we shouldn't go down this rabbit hole because you will be doing that for like the next 10 hours.
Yeah, I gotta stop. Oh, I should really put an SSD in. Oh, let me put it in one of my Open Drive bays. Oh, wait, I filled them all up with disks. Stink.
A little late now.
It is.
The other one that I listened to recently is the most recent Cortex is always fun.
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm.
I liked that episode. That was very fun because, if nothing else, it talked about the fact that, okay, this is definitely a period of uncertainty, and I definitely vibe with that feeling because especially one of the things they talked about was the fact that when we were all quarantining, we knew what that looked like. We knew what tomorrow was going to look like. We knew what the next day was going to look like because this is what we're doing. Now that things are starting to relax and things are starting to end, everybody's trying to figure out what that means and what that looks like. And I think that's a very curious thing. The year of uncertainty was the main thrust of that one, which I will say, I definitely decided to follow the year progress bar that they talked about because I really need that depression in my life. Where there is a little bar that appears every couple of days saying, yes, 2021 is 56% done.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 56% already, by the way.
The amount of time the school year takes every year is getting less and less, which is not true, but it really feels like it sometimes.
It does. It really does.
It's like, oh, wow, we're January already? Oh, my, we're May already. Did you get everything done this year? No, not really.
No, we got half of what we wanted done.
Because the book we read today has some teachers that are impactful to the characters, we thought we would talk about 2 experiences we've had with teachers in the past, positive or otherwise, but 2 experiences we've had with teachers in our lives.
Do you want to go first or should I?
I can go first this time.
All right.
Although I think I'm going to change up one of mine right away. Based on the way I introduced it. Actually, interestingly, I was having a hard time coming up with 2. Not because I haven't had impactful teachers, but I was having trouble, again, mostly because my memory fails me frequently. I was having trouble narrowing it down to moments that I could talk about.
I realize that I do not have good moments to talk about, but I have good people to talk about. Like, I have teachers who I'm like, this is a teacher who impacted me.
Mm-hmm.
But can I crystallize that in a moment is hard.
Yeah, that's where I'm struggling.
So maybe we talk about teachers in the general sense who have impacted you.
Okay.
And maybe just the general gist of maybe how they impacted you. Maybe not necessarily a story about it, but telling about the teacher.
Let's start that again then. So today, because the book...
Oop.
You okay?
Yeah, no, I accidentally knocked a spoon off the table. Because here's the thing. Because it's morning here, I had breakfast about 5 minutes before you called.
Okay.
When you called, I was finishing having coffee and breakfast because I was not waking up. I got to remember not to play with KitKats and KitKat wrappers when they are in front of me because what I've realized is when I edit the podcast, there are so many times where I hear
Yep.
behind our talking.